Alright, stocks by the numbers, welcome back. Quick update here on Richtech Robotics, symbol RR, listed here on the NASDAQ. I know this is one people were pumped about. I think we looked at it like back here. I was pointing out this support trend line here. I think I was saying, in my opinion, should drop back down to about $1. We can see the stock pulled back to the low ones, about 137, had a bounce, and then we were tightening. Looks like we were in the symmetrical triangle over here. Today, the stock pops up 241, up 14 cents to close up 6%. Then we get an early report here. I thought it looked like earnings were coming out maybe in about 2 weeks. It looks like here on TradingView. Not sure how accurate this is, but we're expecting a loss of about 3 cents, revenue only about 1.64 million. But we got the 10Q today, market cap at the close 276.68. 276 million, excuse me. And you can see that after hours, the stock was here at about 240, dropped all the way down to the bottom of the range, basically, of the triangle of about 212. And you can see there going into the extended hours close, stock closed 219. So we had a premature breakout, stock closed 219, which is right like here, right? So technically, it's right here at 219. So technically, it's still inside of this triangle. But I do believe, in my opinion, that we potentially just hang out and then we break back down to the downside, maybe 1 3/4. If we do completely drop to this trend line, it would basically be the previous low of about 137. So that actually might be an interesting play too if you're looking to trade it or potentially even get in at a cheaper price, right? If you miss this dip, now we're tightening here in the triangle, premature breakout, pulled back in on the 10Q, and now if we hang out and break to 137, let's say, you'd be able to get in at about $1 cheaper, and you'd potentially be forming this double bottom here and have a nice bounce off of that support trend line. So something like that can happen as well. So in the short term, of course, if you own it around here, it might suck if it drops a point, but again, it may go down and then bounce. But I know people were pumped about this one right now. I mean, the company's still really in the state of infancy. Again, we were expecting about $1 million in revenue. So, market cap right now, was about 300 million. It's understandable. Even after hours dropping at 10%. So now you're down to about $250 million market cap. So, I mean, of course, you could make the argument, well, it should be at least a couple of hundred, high 700-800 million. Or you could also make the argument that right now the company isn't doing much, so it doesn't have to climb up. But we can see about a month ago, they bought some land for HQ expansion, 20,000 square foot land parcel in Vegas. Acquisition scheduled to close tomorrow. Expects the new facility to result in long-term cost savings compared with its previous rental arrangement. Also signed a lease for a new office in California. So we're still expanding, right? But let's get to the 10Q. Revenue net 2.424 million, increased by $152,000 or approximately 6.7% compared to the same period last year, primarily due to the positive impact of the robots as a service model. Gross profit 1.847 million, increased by $557,000 or approximately 43.2%, driven by a decrease in cost of revenue and a shift towards higher margin RAAS offerings. Loss from operations 8.837 million, increased by 5.629 million compared to the same period last year, primarily due to increased general and administrative expenses. Net loss net loss attributable to the company 8.088 million, increased by 4.22 million, reflecting higher operating expenses. Loss 8 cents a share compared to 6 cents for the same period. Company reported significant increase in product revenue, strong demand for robotic solutions, 111% increase for the 6 months ended March 31st compared to the same period the year prior. Service rental revenue decreased due to a strategic shift towards the robots as a service model. The company is expanding its presence in the Southeast with new location in Georgia, plans for another location near California. The company launched its first coffee and tea store, introducing a robotic coffee and tea concept with plans to expand this brand with additional locations. Yeah, they were talking about rolling out additional locations. I think we spoke about this when we last looked at the company, and I was curious to see if the revenue did start coming in from the location. Were they actually able to turn a profit? Was it really catching on? Does it seem like, there's enough demand to where you could roll out multiple locations and they would all do well? But only time will tell. The company is expanding its research and development team in Silicon Valley with a new office in California. Company focusing on the strategic transition to the RaaS model, which is expected to generate more consistent and recurring revenue. A master services agreement with a car retailer dealership enterprise group is anticipated to accelerate deployment activity and revenue conversion in the second half of the fiscal year. Which is why, again, I always say, in my opinion, if they could bring it down, they will. If there's no reason to pump it up, they might not. Which is why, again, it dropped back inside this triangle. I do think it breaks. Because, again, it could come down to support. It could cool off, take the spotlight off it, bring it down. Again, in my opinion, it's also part of the psychology, right? Bringing down a full point. Investors might start to get skittish. They might jump ship. But again, down to the support level, potential double bottom, and then boom, we bounce it going into July, August, September, because that is supposedly where more revenue is going to start coming in, right? So something to keep an eye on, RR. But yeah, the 10Q popped up and someone commented on the last video asking if we could look at it. So I figured we'd just go over that quick little 10Q summary together. But RR still needs a little bit of time. Love my ads. Let's see how we look here on stock charts. I'll let you go. RSI on the daily spiked up here to 62, but again, then we had the breakdown, and we have the mid-Bollinger Band here at 207, which... That's funny. If we kind of immediately break to that 207 level, that would meet up right with the moving average, but again, that might accelerate the sell-off down to support. But 207 might be the next stop down if it breaks the bottom trend line here of this symmetrical triangle. 50-day moving average 199, and you got your 200-day down here at 157. Bottom Bollinger Band 177. MACD just crossed to the upside. Now we're going to swing back down, in my opinion. Check the weekly. RSI about middle of the road there at about 55. We were steadily climbing over the weeks, it looked like, trying to slowly step higher, staying below the mid-Bollinger Band, though, of 239. And now we're down here at like 219. So, again, you have your support level here. So you have to see if we drop. If we break the support, then the next stop's going to be that bottom Bollinger Band on the daily of about 1 3/4. Right? You got your 50-day here at 158. You have your 200-day on the daily at 157. 114, I don't think it'll break 114, but again, maybe about 140, high 130s if it quickly drops back down to support. So just something for you to keep an eye on. MACD flattening out here. Still might take 2-3 weeks to potentially cross to the upside, which of course is what everybody would like to see, I'm sure. But as I said, they might break it down. They might bring it down first, retest bottom levels, and then bounce it. Especially, again, as the company laid out, the second half of the year, revenue is going to start coming in. So that's when people will get re-excited for RR. You know what I mean? Let's check the pivot points real quick. I'll let you go. Pivot points on the weekly. Yeah, we're way up here. So, again, probably in my opinion, should really go down to the moving average. But we know anything can happen, right? You could get a random order. You could get a random upgrade. So we could also pop back up and above the symmetrical triangle. But I mean, in theory, in my eyes, it really shouldn't. But again, I'm not trying to be a hater. Anything could happen. But technically, it really should break down first, in my opinion. You could see we had an upward pivot point here at 265, which it may have gotten to. But again, we got the 10Q come out. That kind of upset investors. So we dropped 10, 11%. 231, random ad. 231 here. Pivot point stock dropped to 219 after hours, so technically broke below that. And now we have our 50-day moving average at 199. We have a pivot point here at 2. And again, it looked like about maybe like 208, 209 or something was the bottom trend line here of the triangle. So a couple of key levels there, slightly above 2 and slightly below 2 that you're going to have to keep an eye on. And if we break down, you can see a support level here. Next pivot point, wow, these ads. Next pivot point down here, $1.66, which again, if we do start to approach those kind of mid-dollar levels, again, we have multiple moving averages, 158, 157, and then chances are it'll probably bring it down here to support. But again, as we know, anything can happen, but technically early 10Q came out, stock dropped. Somebody wanted to take a quick look, so jumped on, took a quick look. But yeah, could be good, but in my opinion, I the way I like to look at a lot of these stocks, especially if they're up and comers like this, right? Let's show me proof of concept, right? Show me revenue coming in. You're not losing an arm and a leg to do said expansion. And then, we can reevaluate the situation and come back to it. But in my opinion, if you miss this dip here, there might be another one coming. But, if it happens to move bigly up or down, maybe we'll come back. We'll do an update, later in the week or next week sometime. But whatever. That's it. I'll end it there. So Stocks by the Numbers. Appreciate your time. Thanks for stopping by. Like the video, right? Subscribe to the channel. All that good stuff for the algorithm. I know markets are rocky, volatile, and uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time and have a good day.